Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original SuperHouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/F/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039S-Butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/F/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039S-Butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true SuperHouse fan. We were SuperHouse at that time. You know, the first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and, you know, nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
Deep within the heart of the city, the Indeed Wizard notices a stain on his starry gown and cap.
Ah, yes, indeed. This starry gown and cap surely is full of grime, dust, and all manner of speckles that do not sparkle. I can't wait to get it cleaned at my local laundromat.
He notices a laundromat directly across the street from him, deciding that now is his local laundromat, and walks in.
Time to twinkle on over there. Yes, there seems to be quite a tall, dashing young fellow with immaculate skin in front of me. And what is this? He has a bit of some older type headphones on. Perhaps he's one of those Brooklyn hipsters. Excuse me, my good man.
Yes?
Are you perhaps in line?
What does it look like?
Well, you see, I have my sparkly gown and cape and whatnot, and I need them washed post-haste.
Good luck here. I've just been sitting here listening to Huey Lewis in the news. The one upstate couldn't wash the crayon apple stains out of my bedsheets.
Might I inquire as to how you came upon crayon apple in such times as these?
No, you may not. It's very simple. I was just drinking some juice and it spilled all over the sheets. That's all you have to know.
The Indeed Wizard proceeds to strip his clothes off right there in front of the young man.
Well, if you don't mind,
What are you doing?
I have to get buck naked because these are the only clothes that I own.
What happened to you? Are you homeless? Did you lose your job? Insider trading? Why don't you get a goddamn job?
I have many jobs, and to be homeless you have to have no homes. But in fact, wherever I lay my pointy cap happens to be my home, you see.
That is the definition of homeless.
No, because you see, I use magic and go inside the cap, and then it actually is my home in there, sort of Doctor Who style. Don't mind this eyeball in my bag. It's horny newt toad.
You can leave me alone so I can listen to my Huey Lewis in the news.
Perhaps we could share a headphone while we wait for our clothes to be done.
Oh? Do you like Huey Lewis in the news?
I believe their older hits are better than their later ones.
You're not wrong on that. Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste. But when sports came out in '83, that's when they hit it off. Commercially and artistically, of course.
Do you drink crayon apple often? It's sort of a weird drink to have. I'm still very interested in where one might purchase crayon apple. I find it exquisite. The taste of cranberries and apples combined create such tinctures and potions and concoctions and whatnot.
It's called Whole Foods. Just go up 3 more blocks,
Excuse me, sir. You can't stand here naked while other people are washing their clothes. I'm gonna have to ask you to wait outside.
But my beard covers all of my giblies.
I see that, but the giblies in the back are still exposed.
Can you please escort him out, because I have to see this.
I can use my stick to cover the crack.
Legally, I'm not required to touch anybody, but since you asked me, really nice, handsome man, come with me, sir. We're gonna wait outside.
Thank you.
Time to fly away now.
Sir, do you need help with your sheets?
Yes, if you can get these stains out, the place upstate couldn't do that.
We guarantee all our services, sir. No questions asked.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted.
Would you give me a nod if that guy comes sauntering back in here? I kick him out about once a week, I swear. Oh, man. Is that guy naked?
Oh, he's coming back.
I appear to have forgotten my wizard staff. Let me just get it. It seems you're still trying to get the cran apple. But are you sure that's cran apple? I'm really focused on that cran apple. I can't seem to. It just looks like something else.
If you don't shut your fucking mouth, I will kill you.
What?
All right, everybody, welcome to Superhero Stuff You Should Know, brought to you by the SuperHouse Podcast Network. This is Andrew, one of your hosts, as usual, and I'm once again joined by...
The man who knows too much about Batman, unless it's about what we're about to cover. This is Ben Watt.
Oh, man, we got a doozy for you all today. I will be regaling Ben this time around with...
It's a role reversal.
With not oft talked about... installment in the Bat mythos. This week we are talking about Batman Abduction, that was originally written by Alan Grant, Norm Brayfogle, James A. Hodgkins, Blayart Rohannon, and John Costanza. Actually, I know written by Alan Grant, but I think, forgive me for some of the other credits, it's probably...
Brayfogle was the penciler, and everyone else is the rest of the art.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I would assume, but...
Okay.
Yeah, there are some corners of the Bat universe that not even I dare to venture, but Andrew has ventured for me for this episode.
Somehow we got onto aliens all over again because of Unsolved Mysteries coming out on Netflix, so that's what's kind of got us on this tangent. We all got in the phase again. So, but yeah, this comic was released in 1998. I did not know about it. I just Googled, after getting into the alien phase, Batman alien abduction, and sure enough, Batman's been around so long, he's even had this happen to him, so. All right.
I'm weird about the fact that I seem to only like Batman and alien stories if it's like Justice League or Superman.
Yeah.
But then when it's just like random aliens, I'm like, okay.
I think it's definitely silly, and the Justice League, like comic book aliens, are going to make more sense than when you get into like the Greys and all that. You just get into so much, modern, like, I don't know, it's like the whole like X-Files and like government conspiracy stuff, and it's just like a whole other thing to mix with Batman mythology, so it does get a little messy there, I think, as far as mixing mythologies. But anyway, it's been done at least in this time around, and you'll see when we get into it. So the tagline for this comic is a blinding light, a missing hour, and later, a terrible feeling of dread. There's only one explanation. Batman has been abducted by aliens. And that's only the beginning. ...
Okay, here we go then.
Here we go. So it's in 5 chapters, and the first chapter is called First Encounter. So in this one, Ben, Batman is in the Batmobile chasing down some henchmen. That's how it all starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it reads,
naturally,
midnight, in the wooded hills outside Gotham City, and the Batmobile's twin headlamps cut a swatch through the darkness.
Midnight, when honest men are home and evil roams abroad. Midnight, when all the worst nightmares begin.
Alan Grant, man. Alan Grant.
I love it.
He actually...
Yeah, go ahead.
He wrote the first Batman book I ever read.
Oh, shit.
Was the Nightfall. It was the kids' novelization to Nightfall, and I remember it distinctly because it was the first exposure to like the comic book mythology during the 90s, where it's just like, wait, Nightwing is who? Robin retired? There's a new Robin? There's a dead Robin? What the hell is this? There's Azrael? Who's all these people? So Alan Grant is a name that's always stuck out to me because of that.
Is he generally like of quality? Like you can like a Grant Morrison type, where it's like, oh shit, this is probably going to be good.
Maybe not necessarily Grant Morrison level, but he was definitely a big part of the '90s Batman comics that I grew up with. So I've always had a fondness, of course, for him, partially due to that nostalgia, but also just because I like a lot of the '90s storylines, like the ones that we've been covering on the pod with the whole Contagion, Legacy, and No Man's Land, which we'll cover in a future episode.
I mean, I'm a fan of already like how it's already swinging for the fences. Just even like with the prose here, the narration starts with that and midnight something midnight period
yes.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, cheesy but obviously great. You know.
Yes.
So it's what you read comics for, right? So, well, one of the reasons for many of the comics that you do read. Anyway, all right. So, in this comic, Batman has kind of a grizzled look more than usual. He's definitely got some 5 o'clock shadow in the cowl. Just wanted to bring that up, give you an idea.
He's been out there for days.
Yeah, it seems like it. The Batmobile looks like a kind of a toned down Schumacher type in this comic. It's got the spiky tail wings, sort of, but it seems like it's kind of going off. Like the end wings are huge, like the Schumacher type. I'll just bring that up. I don't know. Maybe that's more from the comics, and Schumacher stole that. I don't know.
Any random blue lights?
No. It's more realistic than that. It's not as overly designed like the Schumacher one was, but it does share humongous tail lights, I think.
Interesting. Okay.
So it has that going for it. So he's in pursuit of the criminals. The Batmobile then stalls while in pursuit. There's a button that reads power failure, this big red button, and then Batman says, "What?" And then
exactly like that.
Everything is dead. It says the backup generator is dead, all of it.
That doesn't normally happen.
Yeah. And I wanted to pause here real quick. Like we said earlier with the midnight stuff and all that, do you generally like this older style in the comics where there's an actual narrator and it's not just Batman narrating, but there's some, what do you call it, omniscient narrator, whatever you call it?
That's a good question, actually. That's pretty old school. I never really noticed, the shift, but they don't seem to do that anymore. I think you brought that up to me earlier. They don't really do that now. It's just like the character narrating as opposed to the omniscient narrator. I think I do like it if it's done well. There's a few comics where they do a prose story for it. There's an old one, I think it's Danny O'Neill, called Death by Midnight and 3. That was like one of my favorites. And Grant Morrison did one with the Joker, the Clown at Midnight, that we talked a lot about in the Dark Knight deep dive, the Comics versus Nolan edition of that. So I think I do like it. I like it here. I don't know if I necessarily have a preference though in terms of one over the other.
Okay. Yeah, I might prefer it a little bit, but maybe because I just haven't read it so much recently. It seems like it was done a lot more back in the day, as opposed to now. And I don't know. I think it can help, and it kind of makes it seem a little bit more like a regular book. It has like a comic book is still sort of a book, you know? So it's, I mean, obviously a lot less reading, but I don't know. I think I kind of like it. It can kind of explain some things too that maybe I won't get unless I read it too. So that's probably why. So anyway, Batman suddenly gets engulfed by a bright amber light, and then nothing. It cuts to Alfred's preparing a meal, and Batman for Batman's return.
Soir?
Yeah, it's a vichyssoise. I still want to say fishy soir, but it's vichyssoise with a V. But yeah, it's he's making a meal. Batman apparently comes home every morning because he's out all night. So he's got his he's making his breakfast whenever he comes back, I guess. Batman says he doesn't feel well. He comes home earlier than usual, or so he thinks, but he's back at the normal time. Like we said in the tagline, the missing hour. This is a hint that Batman has experienced what's known as missing time, as far as alien abduction stories are concerned.
So that's a common thing, and because I'm not too familiar with a lot of the alien abduction stuff myself, so that's a common thing in these types of stories.
Yeah, it does seem to be so. It's like you've been unconscious and you have like a kind of, I guess because, supposedly, allegedly, you were being experimented on and you were under some sort of alien anesthesia or something, and you just don't have any concept of time for a while. Like the famous Fire in the Sky story. Travis Walton, the guy that wrote that book, the guy that was supposedly abducted, he lost 5 days.
Jeez. Okay.
He thought it was just a day or so. Definitely not 5 days. So this is kind of a thing in alien abduction stories. So
got it.
All right. So then Alfred checks his temperature. He's got a slight temp, and then he cancels all Wayne appointments for the day.
You definitely have coronavirus. So.
Yes. My word.
I told you not to go to that rally.
We've got to get these bats out of the cave. At least for a little while.
Alfred, you shouldn't have cooked that bat.
Did this vichyssoise have any bats? Oh my God.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. We were out of beef.
We've lost some funding, and we had to resort to eating the bats in the bat cave.
There's a meat shortage, sir.
This is when it gets really bad for the Wayne family. Oh shit. Okay, so it then cuts back to Batman's having flashbacks. It seems like like a PTSD kind of thing.
Got it.
He's sort of floating and can't feel his own body. It's as if he's bound by something, but nothing is there. He wakes up in a cold sweat saying, "No, keep away from me," in the Wayne bedroom.
Got it.
So then it just basically he goes out on patrol again, because what else is a bat to do?
It's like I always have nightmares all the time. It's just how I roll.
It's usually my parents getting killed. So yeah. I'm glad it was something different this time. So anyway.
Ooh, that's a relief. It's only aliens probing me. Oh, thank God, it wasn't my parents again.
Yes. Yeah, but that's crazy though, right? It's that bad. So
yeah,
he's about to bust up some other criminals, and they point a flashlight at him, and then as Batman has another flashback and misses and doesn't land on the criminals, so he misses them. And
wait, where does he go then?
I think criminals get away, and he just goes to another street lamp or something.
Whoops.
Then he goes back to the Batcave where Alfred. This is after a night of patrol, I guess. It was a failure of a night, I guess you could say. So Alfred, I guess he notices this is a problem, and then he pulls out a bat coin. It's like this golden coin with a bat signal on it, right? The bat symbol. The 90s cool bat symbol, I think.
This is a year after the bat credit card.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, this is a 98. So
yeah.
We're in this time period. So
bat currency. This is pre-Bitcoin. It's Batcoin.
Exactly. So yes, exactly. Batman gets hypnotized by Alfred in this scene. Okay.
What?
Yes. I guess
one of the things I learned in the SAS is how to hypnotize a man.
Dude, I guess so. That's how they're doing it, because this is, I guess, the only person that Batman, that Bruce Wayne would kind of be vulnerable to is Alfred. So
yeah, no, I get it.
Let's give him that. He has that, so that's good.
It's just a weird thing to see Alfred do to him,
Yes, I know. So they go into his repressed memories of the abduction. He's in a spaceship being worked on by your standard gray aliens. Okay, everybody, you're okay with you know what the gray aliens are, right? Your standard,
yes.
God,
I do know stuff outside of Batman. Yes,
I found
gray aliens.
Some people don't know, man. You'd be surprised.
Okay.
So the aliens say he's paralyzed in the flashback. They tell Bruce Wayne they tell Batman he's paralyzed. But only briefly, because they're just trying to collect some data. Then he gets up and views the craft with the alien. Bruce tells Alfred that the alien tells him,
"It tells me they're conducting genetic experiments on mankind, taking tissue samples so that if catastrophe occurs, they can preserve human stock."
You know, this is Alfred, right? You know that you're talking to Alfred? But you don't have to do the bat voice to me, sir. If there's anyone...
I'm sorry. I'm still in character. Once you give me the mask, I'll still be in this.
I've become the bat. Okay. So, Batman seemingly does not believe this. He tries to pick something up from the craft for proof that he's been there in preparation for whenever he leaves the spaceship. Mm-hmm. The alien tells him no, he can't do that, saying that it's forbidden at this time for him to remember. I always thought that was interesting. At this time,
weird.
like there's going to be a time when it's okay.
Mm.
So then it cuts to Batman back in the Batmobile, nauseated. And I think that's kind of in keeping with some abduction stories, being nauseated. So that's the end of chapter 1 for this saga. Thoughts so far, Ben?
Intriguing mystery. I'm wondering what else is gonna go, because like, okay, he was abducted, but then for what purpose, and what's this gonna lead to? Because we said there's 5 chapters, right? So I'm like, okay, what's chapter 2 through 5 gonna be?
Yeah, you'll see. Let's get into it. Chapter 2 is called UFO Con? ?
Con as in convention, or con as in like con artist?
You'll see. All right. So.
All right.
Alfred is this chapter starts out with Alfred straight up hacking a NASA satellite and downloading what they know to the Bat computer. They find nothing. Then it goes into a whole spiel about ancient alien theory, basically saying the Paleolithic cave paintings at Neo in France are at least 30,000 years old. They clearly show disc-shaped objects with a dome at the top. You know, it's that whole, Ancient Aliens, right? Where they make fun of the History Channel talking about that all the time.
Yeah, that's the idea that we didn't come from God, we came from aliens, and the aliens were here a long time ago. That type of thing.
You can mix it all up. It's essentially like you could probably maybe mix God to the whole mix there, but it's essentially you have to be kind of you have to have a liberal interpretation of the Bible if you are a Christian, if you believe this. But the idea is. Evolution is real, and we got to a certain point like Cro-Magnon man or something, and then the reason there was a huge jump in intellect was because ancient aliens fucked with us, either by just talking with us or just by us looking at them, or they literally mixed their DNA with us or some sort of experiment on us. That's why we're so far ahead of every other creature on the planet. It's to me it's excellent mythology. I love the sci-fi aspect of it. I don't really believe it, but man, as far as like modern mythology in a sense, like I think it's great.
This is a great story to explore, or universe to explore, if you were to explore that in different stories. Is this also where that meme comes from, with the dude who looks like he just got out of bed with his hair in the suit, and he's just like, aliens?
Yes, so exactly. That meme comes from the History Channel. So basically, History Channel, I think, is a spinoff of Discovery. I could be wrong. I'm sure they're all related. And it's supposed to be legit history, They used to just, the joke used to be, back in the day, I feel old saying this, but they used to just run Nazi shit all the time, like just not Nazi history, World War II history, because that's where they made their money. They got their most revenue from that. And then maybe some Roman shit. But then as soon as they started playing this ancient alien stuff, it's like all they played. Because people are so interested in that, and people really believe, a lot of people truly believe that stuff is real. And I'm sure we have some listeners that really believe in that stuff. It's cool. I mean, I get it. I don't personally subscribe to it. I think, like I said, I think it's awesome mythology. I'm not trying to downplay your beliefs or anything. Part of me wishes it was real, but I just don't fully buy it right now.
Interesting, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so ancient aliens are part of this, which I guess makes sense, because like Batman would not immediately jump into alien abductions as the first explanation, even though he's been around like other aliens. I'm sure he
Yes.
would like want to see or investigate what the evidence is on that before jumping to that conclusion or knowing that's definitely what happened.
Exactly, man. So then Batman says, delusion or not, something is definitely going on. Bruce then decides to, I think, secretly host Gotham's first UFO convention. I suppose it's the first.
As Bruce Wayne?
Oh, dude, let me get to it, bro. So he goes into he starts his convention in disguise, and he makes his disguise like he has a goatee and he's balding a little. I'm sure this is based on somebody.
He's doing Hugo Strange cosplay. It sounds
Kind
like.
of. So he goes as his alias is, I swear, is Mr. Jason.
What?
So Mr. Jason is this alias that hosts this thing, seems like. I'm assuming with Wayne money secretly somehow. So
Oh my god, okay. So not Matches Malone.
not Matches Malone. And so then, in disguise, he starts talking to what seems like a professional in the UFO research community about his experience being abducted. This looks like kind of like The Office near. This is one of the things I'm sort of bad at reading where things are in comics sometimes. It's not the artist's fault. I think it's my fault. Anyway, it's probably good we don't share the whole story, and so people go out and buy this thing. Anyway, so I think it's at an office, like the convention office. You know what I'm saying?
Got it, okay.
Okay, where the convention talent are and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts talking to this guy about his experience, just so he can see if he can get some data. This is kind of his detective work, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the professor goes on this like tirade on like all the different possibilities for why aliens are here, and it's drawn in this super psychedelic way. It looks like they were like on mushrooms and shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not supposed to be actual. It's just a stylistic interpretation of how this guy's talking. It's not really there in the comic. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see. What
Yeah,
you mean. The way that they draw, the way that they illustrate his dialogue.
Yes, it's the way his dialogue and
The font and stuff, yeah.
that, and like there is some psychedelic stuff around him, but I think it's just supposed to show his overall mood. I don't really think it's there. I'll show it to you later, but
Sure.
But yeah, so Bruce is Mr. Jason here, and then he seemingly gets hypnotized again by this guy.
This is really not my week.
I guess to get info or something, but then they go into astral projection outside of their bodies.
We got some not Hugo Strange, but Doctor Strange type shit going on.
Very much so, yeah. So they're in this like bright yellowish, ethereal, non-corporeal energy form. Okay? They're talking to each other. They're going up into space and then into the spaceship, all right?
Got it.
The researcher assures Bruce, or should I say Mr. Jason, that they're invisible to the Greys. They see other abductees in the spaceship. The researcher then reveals that he thinks that the aliens are malevolent and not benevolent.
Okay.
That's his thinking, okay? So he's not pro-Grey at all.
Great.
Then they get noticed by a reptoid.
Wait, what?
There's a reptoid, some sort of reptilian alien creature on the spaceship, and apparently the reptoids can notice astral projection, but the Greys can't.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so that's where you with me so far?
This is definitely the basis for the Matt Reeves Robert Pattinson movie.
Oh, dude, it's so good. So
Colin Farrell's not the Penguin; he's a reptoid. We just didn't tell you yet. That's why he's in prosthetics.
dude, I found some comments on this comic, and they were like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever read." Shit like that. So okay, they get noticed by the reptoid, and then he tells him, "Oh, the Greys can't see us, but reptoids can." And then he says that this guy at the convention says he thinks that they're in cahoots, the Greys and the reptoids. They're doing something. So as to escape, they flash back down somehow. I don't know who the fuck knows how astral projection works. So they get back into their bodies. They're back in that convention office looking place. And Bruce looks shook. And then Bruce leaves the UFO con. And that's the end of chapter 2.
Okay. Still, if anything, he has more questions than answers, I would say at this point.
Dude, yeah, I don't think he knows what the fuck is going on. But he doesn't seem to be anti-gray yet or anti-reptoid or anything. He's just doing, he's kind of still in detective mode doing his research.
My detective training with Ducard didn't prepare me for this.
Yeah, exactly. Ducard, you never said anything about fucking aliens.
Sacre bleu.
My name is Mr. Jason.
Okay, and this was astral projecting as Mr. Jason?
Yeah, which is weird because I do think that he was. There might have been a little blurb there about how he was worried that he was going to be seen as Bruce Wayne in astral projection form.
Or Batman, yeah.
Or
Batman. I was wondering, I'm like,
yeah.
does he have experience in astral projection, and so he was trained years ago to astral project any disguise he wanted?
I
if
think
we were
they
gonna go that far.
I think they did cover their base there slightly, but it is still a little bit iffy. You know what I mean?
This whole premise is a little iffy, if you know what I mean. But all right.
Iffy? I think you mean amazing. Speaking of amazing, Chapter 3 is the subtitle for this one in this saga is Enter the Dragons.
There's dragons in this.
You'll see. So, starts out, again, Batman is taking out what seems to be the same gang of dudes from the first chapter, the very first few panels. They look like they're henchmen wearing a sort of golden Phantom of the Opera style mask. All of them. So it's a little bit... who knows who they're working for? Well, I guess you'll see.
Music of the night. Okay.
So, Batman's got a crazy headache while doing this, and as he's like throwing like a bola or whatever the fuck, like he's tied him up and he's about to unmask one of these dudes, do some interrogation or whatever. While doing this, he's visited by the Men in Black. I'm not kidding.
What?
So, I don't know how familiar you are with this stuff, but the whole idea of Men in Black does not initially start with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, or even the comic. This is another thing. Again, you got a whole ball of wax with this other mythos. It's like the Men in Black are, I guess, like the movies, sometimes human, but often alien, maybe in cahoots with humans, I don't know, but they're often in disguise as human, but don't pull off the human disguise very well.
Interesting. So it's like the opposite of the Tommy Lee Jones, Will Smith type of thing, where those are humans fighting aliens, but this is an alien pretending to be human.
Exactly. And I think in this story, they're not good like the Men in Black were in those movies. Like, to their credit, those movies are done really well, but I think it's a little bit different from some of that. You know, they took their own licenses with their own story, but
right, yeah.
But yeah, that's what's happening here. So they're digging even deeper into this kind of I don't know what you call it, new age alien lore. I don't know what you call this whole thing. But the kind of shit you see in National Enquirer and all that. For our listeners outside of America, that's like one of those, how would you describe that, Ben? Those magazines at the grocery store that have...
Yeah, stuff like Secret Affair between Donald Trump and Donald Rumsfeld. Like something that's like ridiculous articles, headlines that you're just like, that's not true.
Yeah, so the queen is an alien or something like that. Yeah,
that type of stuff, yeah.
You probably have the same exact thing in the UK or wherever. So, just a different name maybe. So anyway, he still has the headache. And then all these Men in Black, by the way, are completely bald white dudes. They look a little bit like Grant Morrison. Maybe they're not Grant Morrison. Maybe it's an homage slightly to him since he's into all this stuff too. I don't know.
Oh, oui, Batman. I can't even do a Scottish accent, but okay.
Scottish stuff.
We'll figure it out one time.
They warn him not to tell anybody about his experiences, and then they vanish. Like Grant Morrison. Yeah, like Grant Morrison. And I think all the dudes that he's tied up as well vanish.
What?
So he's left there alone for a few moments, and then he fights Bruce Lee.
What?
I am not joking.
Okay, wait, how did we get here?
Okay, so it's Bruce Lee with a kind of Marvel Iron Fist looking tattoo on his chest. And then Batman looks to him and says, "It can't be! You're dead!"
So Bruce Lee just randomly shows up at this point.
I'm not kidding. I mean,
Okay.
obviously not Bruce Lee, but it looks exactly like him. You know what I mean?
Bruce versus Bruce. Okay.
Yeah, Bruce-
Wait, so is he saying you're dead? As in the Bruce Lee character is somebody he knew who's died, or is he literally mean Bruce Lee? You died years ago. Literally, you're a real guy who died in like the 80s
Yeah,
or something.
it's exactly. I think in this world, Bruce Lee was alive and died just like our world, but they're not going to say the name Bruce Lee because of legal stuff in the comics, but it's Bruce Lee.
Oh, wait, so they legally can't use his name, but they can legally use his likeness?
Uses likeness, dude. Yeah, apparently yes. Doing all the same shit. He's wearing like, I know you don't know video games that well, but like the Fei Long pants, those kind of like pants Bruce Lee wore. Fei Long's based on Bruce Lee, so
So I guess they get away with it because he's not like dressed like he did in Enter the Dragon or the Game of Death. That was the last one where he's in the yellow jumpsuit that Uma Thurman was in.
not that. No, it's not the yellow. It's like the black pants with the black shoes on, but no shirt. Look,
Well, I guess it's kind of like Enter the Dragon. Yeah.
I think it's the pants he was wearing when he did what you call it. I think he has some nunchucks and I don't know. I can't remember exactly. I'm not the most versed on Bruce Lee movies, actually, but something like that. I'm sure Bruce Lee rocked this look at one point. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
So Batman says it can't be you're dead. Then they have a full-on kung fu fight for like a page and a half. You know, no talking, just shots
This
of
I
the
wanna
action,
see.
which is pretty cool. And then it ends. The fight ends pretty much with Batman eventually stabbing Bruce Lee in the neck with his pointy ears.
What?
Yes. My question for you now, Ben, is
Yes.
how often does Batman do this move in the comics? I've never seen him stab somebody with his ears.
I've never seen it because sometimes I figure the ears are cloth. So how would you do that? But I guess if it's like the rubber type cowl, then maybe if you put enough force into it. The only time I can see that happening is if it's like the Kelly Jones style Batman, where like his ears are ridiculously tall and pointing and vampire-like. But other than that, I'm like, I don't think I've heard of him ever doing that before.
Okay, so this is a first. Alan Grant, this is a first, probably.
Alan Grant, I don't know what you were smoking, but this whole idea of him stabbing Bruce Lee in the neck with his bad ear is pretty ingenious, honestly.
It's amazing. Would you want to see this in a movie? I mean, not the Bruce Lee part, but this move, yes.
I mean, if he can do it without lethal force, because again, as I keep ranting, like I'm tired of seeing Batman being brutalizing and killing criminals.
Yeah, exactly, and like
So if he does it to like Ra's al Ghul in the leg or something, then I'm like, okay, like I get it. That's kind of cool. I don't know how that would work, but
or non-vital points or something somehow. Yeah,
just
something
a
like
Joker
that.
right in the crotch.
It is cool to see him use stuff that he doesn't normally use, though. Like I said, like again, the tactical cape stuff in Batman Year One. He kind of chokes.
Earth One,
or
actually,
Earth
yeah.
One,
Yeah.
Earth One, yeah, Earth One. Then Bruce Lee clones start to appear. Suddenly, 4 or 5 Bruce Lees surround him.
Okay.
Batman tries his best, but obviously this is a struggle.
I can take on 1 Bruce Lee, but 4.
Yes. So they pretty much start to get the advantage of him, and then some dude just magically appears before him. He's another bald-looking hippie old white guy floating midair in lotus position.
So Grant Morrison again.
Kinda, but this one a little bit less so. He is bald though, I think.
Okay.
Unless he might have that ponytail on the back. I'm not sure. I have to look at it again. But he calls himself the Kook.
What?
His name is the Kook. Kook.
Okay. All right.
I looked this up. He doesn't show up all that much. You don't know him, right, Ben?
Wait, he's an actual recurring character?
He shows up in Batman Dreamland, also by Alan Grant.
Okay, this must be certain writers. They have like their own character that only they used and have only used before. So this must be Alan Grant's character in terms of like,
It probably
he only
is.
shows up in those. Yeah.
Yes. So after Batman and the Kook exchange a few words, the Kook then eventually says, "I'm the sanest man on Earth." Then he spills the beans on what he thinks the aliens are doing.
Since man first left the trees, alien species has been manipulating him for its own evil end. Unless we stop them, Bruce, they will lead us all to mass extinction. But I have found something that can alert the world.
Thanks, Kook. So he then disappears. Cut to Bruce getting fixed up by Alfred in the Batcave again. Then Bruce says, "I've been drugged!" End of chapter 3.
Again. This only happens to me every, 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's having a bad run of it, dude. So thoughts so far on this epic chapter 3?
I don't get how any of this connects. He gets abducted chapter 1. He goes to this UFO convention in astral projection chapter 2. He's fighting Bruce Lee in chapter 3 and meets this kook guy. It just feels really disconnected.
It's a lot. Yeah, I felt the same when I was reading it. I am leaving out certain elements, but I'm getting the gist of it. So, okay, moving on to chapter 4, which is entitled "Alone Again" or ...
Still probably the most sensical title so far.
Yes. All right, so Bruce is doing experiments on himself, and then he finds an implant inside him. It cuts to someone in astral form again, and it says, "All across the galaxy, they play puppet masters to thousands of worlds. He thinks of the formula that appeared to him only a few short months ago, and breathes a long sigh of relief. Without its effects, he would be blind to the truth."
What?
This is from a guy named Franklin Selly in a sensory deprivation chamber looking thing. I think this is the guy that was at this UFO convention.
Oh, okay. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Suddenly, okay. I'm just trying to keep up. There's so much randomness to this.
There's Joker-like laughing coming from the tank, but I don't think that nothing really. I'm gonna spoil that for you. There's no Joker thing in this. They just like to hint with "ha ha ha" coming out of the tank.
We don't have Joker in this Batman story. We only have Bruce Lee and astral projection and gray aliens.
We don't have time for that bullshit. So it cuts back to the Batcave. Bruce has got the implant out of him, and he says he's going to take it to Star Labs for, they're going to look at it.
Ooh, some DC crossover here.
Yeah. So then it cuts back to Selly drying off from the sensory deprivation tank. There, there's water in those, right? So, then he says that Selly believes that the aliens are starting World War III, and then his assistants are holding gray alien costumes. He's got some assistants around him, basically his henchmen, I guess.
Got it.
Cut to Batman's on patrol, perched up on a hotel roof. There's a great line at this point where it's the narrator saying, "Batman nurses the anger that seethes in his heart."
It should be in like every Batman story.
So then he swoops in on Franklin Selly. As he swoops in, he gets attacked by a magical Conan-looking dude, sparkling and everything. He looks like a super buff Conan with long hair.
Oh, I thought you meant Conan O'Brien.
No.
First, I was like, what?
No, super buff Conan-looking guy with long
so
hair,
Arnold Conan.
but he has overalls on with only one strap button, like a country boy style.
Okay.
During the fight, magical Conan uproots a nearby palm tree and starts fighting Batman with that. It gets thrown right into Batman's back. As Batman is down, magical Conan turns...
Oh, not again. Bane already hit there.
Exactly. Magical Conan then turns into the Kook,
Bruce.
still floating midair.
Foo Fighters.
Yeah. Foo Fighters. It's revealed that Selly is the Kook.
Oh, okay.
So
So at least there's some integration here of the different threads.
Yes, exactly. It's coming together, Ben. So Batman thinks at this point that he's just been made to hallucinate the alien abduction that he had earlier via whatever powers the Kook has. But the Kook at this point reassures him that the abduction part was indeed real.
Okay.
Wasn't him. Then 4 or 5 dudes in scuba gear, what with double tanks and everything else, scuba related on them.
Okay.
They all tackle Batman at this point. I guess this is what the Kook's henchmen look like. I don't know. What happened to the guys with the golden Phantom of the Opera mask? I have no idea.
Yeah, and also, was the Kook responsible for the multiple Bruce Lees? Or was it somebody else?
The Kook is, supposedly, I think the Kook were Bruce Lees. All hallucination except for the abductions.
Okay. All right, let's keep going then.
Except for the abduction. I think even the astral projection might have been, because that was Sully at that point, I think.
True, yeah.
So we're breaking this apart. We're figuring this out.
Okay, all right, let's go then.
Cut to Batman's hanging upside down, tied in ropes, like a bat gets into from time to time. He hallucinates his top villains at this point, so he sees the Joker, the Riddler, Two-Face, Penguin. It's all.
The Joker is in this.
It is, but it's definitely, no one even for a second believes it's actually him. It's just a hallucination.
Yeah, okay. Technically, he's not in this.
Exactly. So, end of chapter 4. Thoughts so far?
So far, a very classic Batman mystery, very grounded and realistic and noirish, and explores the psychological underpinnings of this great character's tragedy.
Yes, exactly. Perfect.
So basically, the opposite of everything I just said.
Okay.
Let's see what the answers are, because at this point I'm like, okay.
Oh,
so
the answers are coming.
What's gonna happen?
The final chapter, chapter 5, subtitle: Messengers of Deception.
Okay. Down.
So the UFO convention is still going on. I guess it's a multi-day convention.
Oh, okay. I thought like this whole time, Bruce has just been hallucinating this stuff with the kook. Yeah. And this convention is still going on. It's like, it's still going on all day. It's only 4 o'clock.
It's got missing time. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So at the convention, a real flying saucer shows up.
Okay.
All right. So then cut back to Batman still struggling with the ropes, right? He's so hot steam scalding his face.
My greatest weakness.
Yes, ropes. So the UFO is about to drug the crowd at the convention. It's always about to drug a crowd, I'm surprised it's
They don't want to abduct everybody? They're just going to drug everyone?
This, I think, is Sully's goal. I don't know. I didn't understand this part fully. But so Batman then breaks free of the ropes and then heads back to the convention. The kook is about to dose the crowd with his drug called Cosmosis. Not a bad name. So the crowd does get drugged and starts to all mass hallucinate his henchmen as aliens. So Batman then crashes onto the UFO, and sort of similar to what was happening at the end of Batman Begins, actually, Batman has his own quote-unquote nose filter, and Gordon is there covering his mouth with what looks like a handkerchief, but it's doing the job, I guess. I don't know.
He needs an N95 mask.
Yes, exactly.
CDC would say. Yes.
Exactly. So then Batman approaches the kook, and then the kook calls Batman a mass murderer. And then,
what?
Yeah. And then Batman punches the kook clean this time because he's not hallucinating anymore. The kook then turns into Sully. I guess that's his real form. And then Batman's yelling in his face, Batman Begins style. Sully intimates that he has really no idea of Batman's abduction again. It still seems like this really was real in this story. Then it cuts to he feels in his belt for the alien implant and somehow isn't surprised that it's gone. Even if everything that's happened is down to the kook, what about all the millions of other reports of UFOs and alien abductions? For an instant, he ponders exactly what is real and what is the product of the human mind. But there are some mysteries even the Batman can't solve. The end.
What? So we get no answers on the alien abduction. This whole thing is just him versus this dude who can induce hallucinations.
Yeah, and what is the deal with, what's his goal there? He's trying to make everybody hallucinate what? To what goal? To make people believe in aliens? To make people believe aliens are evil so then he can kill the real aliens? I'm not sure exactly what's going on there.
I don't know. You read it, man. I don't know.
I need to read it again, I think.
I don't know what Alan Grant was smoking when he came up with this. I have such fond memories of Alan Grant, and now I listen to this, and I'm like, maybe I should go back and reread some of the stuff he's read or written.
Yeah, it's quite the journey, and I did leave out some parts here and there again, just so that I don't spoil everything. But so maybe some parts are missing there. But I did think this was a pretty wild story, and worth everybody taking a look at it. Look at it again. It does seem to be kind of hard to find. I'm not sure if I found it on Comixology, but maybe it's there. I need to search harder. But anyway, overall thoughts on this installment into the Bat mythos, Ben?
It is amazing in the sense of just how much randomness you can put into one Bat story. I guess as well as just exploring. I mean, I like the general idea of unsolved mysteries of Batman. In terms of the idea of like, hey, like there are some mysteries even Batman can't solve. I just think it just never really. I get the point of it. It's just never really that satisfying of an ending to a story to me. Like, there's a reason why there's no Sherlock Holmes story that just ends with Sherlock being like, "Well, Watson, I have no idea. Let's go back home."
Right,
that's
right,
it.
right,
Like, this, it just doesn't work that way because it's just not satisfying of an ending. You know, and I feel the same way here, where it's just like we kind of already knew this. You know, this kook guy was up to no good or doing all this hallucination type stuff. Like, let's solve this mystery of the abduction. And then at the end, there's like, guess what? It's going to remain a mystery. Like,
we're going to have no conclusion at all.
The whole point of a mystery story is to unravel the mystery, not be like, yeah, it's just exactly what everything started. You get no more answers. If anything, you get more questions, honestly, than you did from the start.
Yeah. I mean, I like a story that swings for the fences, like go absolutely nuts. I do like these elements being thrown in there, but I don't like Selly's whole deal. What's his deal with the aliens? I guess he obviously doesn't like them, but I think the whole thread of what he's doing with the crowd to how is that really going to affect? Like, if a crowd of humans starts to hate aliens, so what? These people, these Greys are so far advanced. What does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that part of the story is a little bit, particularly that part is weak, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, there's not a lot explained about this guy's plan, from what it sounds like. I haven't read it. And it's involving a character that's isn't really explained very well. Unless, I mean, I haven't read Dreamworld, so maybe this is more of a sequel to that.
Could be. I don't know if it was first or not. I mean, again, look, these guys that write these comics, they have to pump out a bunch of stuff all the time really quickly. So sometimes it's not like a masterpiece, you know? That's the nature of this business. You just think about it. There's a new Batman story every week or every other week for 80 years. It's just...
They're always going to be winners.
Yeah, it's not everybody's going to have, like, Batman Year One or, you know, Dark Knight Returns every week. That'd be ridiculous. So sometimes you get this kind of stuff, which is still fun. And you got to remember, in 98, X-Files was still very popular. There was a lot of this kind of talk, I think. And the internet didn't really get started up. I mean, it was there. These were the AOL days. And it's nothing like it is now. So yeah, people just like couldn't look up stuff, and I think people were a little bit less objective back in the day. You know, people took things more at face value because you didn't have a supercomputer in your pocket all the time.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know if this is I don't know if all that stuff is 100% related to this particular comic, but it makes me think. You know, so. How would you have made this better, Ben?
You just had to ask me that. What are my requirements? Like, do I have to stick to the entire basic framework?
Let's say that Batman does get abducted and there is the kook there somewhere.
I would have kept with the idea, because he's like, alien species has been manipulating man. We have something that can alert the world. We can work together, that type of thing. So if it's like a team up with this guy who can induce hallucinations, then maybe they can team up to go against those aliens. I'm just fucking talking out my ass here because I just heard about the story, so it's not like I have anything prepared, but they can go up against the aliens and find out why the aliens wanted Batman in the first place, and it could just come down to the fact that aliens were studying him because they did not believe that they thought that they were finding a new species entirely. They had been abducting all sorts of other humans, but never one who was a Batman before, only to find that he was a human, and that's why they returned him so quickly, as opposed to 5 days later.
That's the interesting part, right? Well, in this story, it's not 5 days later. It's only like he's missing an hour.
What I'm saying is that maybe that's why they only sent him an hour they only took an hour from him as opposed to like days with other humans where they were studying them. Like maybe it was like, oh, like this is a new species, we can take him for keeps, and then they realize, oh, he's just another human, we don't need to look at this again, and then they send him back down.
I agree with you to a point. I feel like it would make sense that the aliens would abduct Batman because he'd obviously be such a different specimen than the rest of the human population, just as far as training is concerned and intellect. You know what I mean? You're talking about you're getting like the prime, one of
the prime humans, yeah.
That would be of some interest for experimentation on the aliens' part. So that would be pretty cool. And then maybe the kook somehow thinks that they're malevolent and find some other way other than the convention to.
This whole convention thing, I don't really like it.
Or he gets like somehow he learns to attack them while in astral form, so he just wants to get a bunch of people in astral form afraid of Greys to go and attack them.
Yeah, maybe it's the kook is like, I'm fending off an alien invasion, and the Batman discovers that like these aliens aren't like really a threat. They're more just like scientists trying to make sure that other planets don't have threats, and so he goes from thinking I got to team up with the kook to go up against these aliens, to then at the end being like, oh, I got to protect these aliens from the kook. And then at the end, you have the same thing where he's fighting the hallucinations and the multiple Bruce Lees, but in this context, it's from the kook. And then he defeats them, and then he defeats the kook. But that's because he's trying to protect the innocents. The innocents in this case being the aliens.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
There, we did it.
There, we did it. We fixed it. You're welcome, Alan Grant. No, just kidding. Yeah.
He's like, damn you all. It's either that or he's like, I don't remember writing that at all. Also, welcome to Jurassic Park. Because Alan Grant, Jurassic Park. Okay, fine. No.
Exactly. So just to wrap it up, man,
right.
We're not going to spend super long time on this as much as we would in a podcast devoted for it. But, I mean, quickly, do you believe in aliens, Ben?
I don't think that much about it, but I do think it would be arrogant of us to think that we're the only life in the entire universe.
I feel the same way. I'm often skeptical of people's abduction stories, but maybe there's something to that. Like, it's hard to tell, but definitely, like, there being so many fucking planets out there, there's gotta be some other life. And if supposedly we came in the last 3 or 4 billion years of the universe, and the universe is 13 billion years old. Mm-hmm. So if we're like a later incarnation than of a sentient human being, then there's got to be aliens ahead of us,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always thought that was good. I mean, sometimes they do that for practical reasons when you see stuff like, Krypton, where obviously they look like humans, or even in Doctor Who, like all the Time Lords are obviously human looking, but I always thought like, oh, maybe that's them playing around with the idea of like, we're like the less evolved version of that.
That's the thing. I think that if there's like a shitload of types of aliens out there, you're going to be dealing with the ones that are most like you. Mm-hmm. So that's how Star Trek kind of gets around it as well. It's like, well, there actually are non-humanoid aliens. Like there's one blob one that shows up like one time, like a mud puddle looking thing in Star Trek Next Generation one episode. Mm-hmm. But to their credit, like we're gonna be if we have the ones to choose from, it's probably gonna be the ones most like us. As humans.
Of course, in terms of like being able to communicate, because like I thought this before, where just like, it's easy for us to like design an alien, but who says that if they exist, who says that they have the same type of 5 senses? Who says they have eyes or a form of eyes, or even need the sense of sight at all? And that's just with sight, and then try to apply that to all the other senses, or just the basic anatomy of like head, legs, or some sort of way of walking and everything, or being able to transport itself. Like there's no guarantee that exists. They could have a whole other set of rules for their biology. We don't know.
Exactly. We have absolutely no idea, and but that's what makes it so much fun.
Yep.
And definitely probably smarter than us, maybe even telepathy. Maybe they talk with their minds. Who knows? I think that's a lot of the part of the gray alien mythology or whatever. Mm-hmm. or maybe it's actual science. But anyway, one thing I always wonder about, and I swear we're going to end this after this, but it just seems like a lot of the abduction stuff always happens in America, like especially the really detailed alien stuff, like the detailed alien abduction stories. Like, are there other abduction stories that are as detailed as like Travis Walton's story, where they're literally seeing Greys work on them, and then Travis Walton claims to have seen a human-like person in the alien in the spaceship as well, and it's just like, I mean, how much does this happen, or is it just the CIA messing with people? Like, if it's the CIA, it would kind of make more sense in the sense that like it would make sense that it's mainly happening in America, you know?
Right, yeah, that is an interesting point. I don't know enough about this to have my own theories on it, but it does seem interesting that, why would aliens only abduct from one country when you have the entire world to choose from? How would they even know that was considered to be like one of the major forces in terms of like world nations?
And why would you mutilate a cow? All this kind of stuff, all these like alien like the anal probe stuff too. Like some of that stuff I just find
Right.
really ridiculous. I mean, maybe it's true, who the fuck knows, but it just seems like some of these abduction stories are just a little bit much. But again, I love the mythology of it. I love the idea of it. I like sci-fi, so so yeah, and it's very interesting that it has a possibility of being true.
Gotcha. Yeah.
More than other stuff, I'd say. So
yeah, it is interesting that we sort of believe it, but also tend to disbelieve in the stories that appear to be the evidence of it, because it's also easy to be faked, I think, because since we don't know about it, it's easy for some people to just come out and say like, this is what happened, but like you don't know for sure. If
you're drugged too, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe the CIA has like access to practical effects. And I don't know, it starts to get so drawn out, who knows anymore. And like practical effects people, like somebody would eventually leak some shit, I feel like. I don't know. It's wild. People definitely see UFOs worldwide, but as far as like these detailed abduction stories, I'd like to hear it from somebody not in America.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
But that's it. That was Batman Abduction. Thank you for listening, everybody out there, and thank you for listening, Ben, to my tutelage this time around. What a story.
It's probably definitely in one of the top 300 stories of Batman.
Maybe
a little bit towards the bottom or middle, somewhere around there.
I do like it when stories get crazy, and I do appreciate this on some level. So thank you, Alan Grant, and the rest of the team. Shout out to the Fire in the Sky movie deep dive over at OChamp. That's what it's what I call it, the Overly Critical Hyper Analytical Movie Club podcast that Wolfie heads up. Sorry, Wolfie couldn't be here today. And
yes, a shout out to Merly Bird. This user sent us in the corrections department type of thing in here about our Dark Knight Deep Dive Part 2, where we criticized Batman's survival with Rachel when he saved her from the Joker. He, or she, I'm not really sure, said, quote, "They survived the fall because Batman has one half or one wing of his cape open with his free hand. His other hand is wrapped around Rachel. Ever see those tree seeds that fall like helicopters? They do that when they've been split in half and only have one wing on them. It's the same concept. That's why they're spinning around uncontrollably. He was able to hold on to Rachel while still slowing their fall enough to survive. Plus, the give of the car roof included with Batman's armor helped a lot too. He probably would have broken a lot of bones if he hit concrete. I don't know if you could walk away from fall like this in real life. I'm the only person on the planet who understood what happened in that scene, though. Everyone complains about it, but I've never heard anyone explain it. So thank you for explaining it, Merly Bird. We'll probably still complain about it, just given the fact that so many people didn't really know what was going on. So that just shows that it should have been shot or shown better, in my opinion, on that. But appreciate the explanation nonetheless, and for listening in.
Also, take a look at our Patreon, patreon.com/superherostuffpod. And we have a lot of Patreon tiers there. Thanks again to Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, and Elijah B. Again, shout out to Matt Herring. he has been diagnosed with cancer. This is the first true and blue Superhouse fan. His GoFundMe is gofundme.com/F/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039S-Butt, B-U-T-T. And if you could donate just any amount of money that you have, if you're able to do so, that would be great. Please support him in his time of need. Mm-hmm. Also, if you could leave us a review on iTunes, that would be awesome. And if you could also take out your phone and look at and open up your voice recorder app and leave us a little message, record us a little bumper, and send that to SuperHousePodcast@gmail.com. We will put you in the show. And I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. And Superhero Stuff You Should Know is on YouTube and all the social media. So please check us out there. And Ben,
you can check us out on Instagram at Superhero Stuff Pod. And you can check my Instagram out as Ben Juan Writer, where you will see a lot less posting than on the Superhero Stuff Pod. I think I post way more on our Instagram posts than on my personal one. But you can still connect with me there if you want.
Nice. And I guess that's it. Thanks, Alan Grant, for such an epic tale. And that's it. Signing off.
Ben signing off.
Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.